Hello, everyone, on another fun podcast, an Ag Uncensored one with your friendly host, Nathan Felighty here. Today, I'm going to talk about something maybe a little more home to me and some others that I know. So, as probably many have been seeing, there is, some bad news within the AgTech space, the world of it. Kind of depends. There's some on the robotics side, there's some on there's plenty of others, plenty with $1 billion wasted in the indoor ag space. Uh so I'm going to talk about that and how that'll affect a certain grouping of people and how that's going to kind of come into the fray of everything. So, first off, I'm not going to get into like the business dynamics of why those groups failed or didn't work or whatever you want to call it, because I'm not an expert in the indoor ag space. And yeah, plenty of people have talked about it already in their various newsletters and blogs, and it's the big ticket item. It is what it is. If you want my fun, quick take on it, I think I think there's opportunities for them still to exist if they can figure out how to kind of manage the business ends of it a lot better and work with people that actually understand the space better in the indoor arena. And I think they actually have to explore areas outside the big urban cities. I think they could look to places like where I live in North Dakota, where there's cheap land, cheap energy, business friendly. We have a massive fruit and vegetable food desert here in places like this, in other areas of the country. Maybe try that. Smaller areas that are more niche that can fit, a smaller population and make those really work good. And then as those work, you figure out the whole model and then you expand it. I think there's something there. Anyway, something to look on there. As for some of the robotics groups, I've talked about it before. There's a method for them to work, and it seems to be more in the high value crops. That doesn't necessarily mean high value crops in like the Midwest. I think of sugar beets, potatoes. There is some opportunity there, but it's got to be very specific to it instead of broad. And I think that's kind of where the wins are going to be more, is things that are more specific to a certain crop. In my mind, I could be wrong though, 'cause it's really expensive to do all this shit. So I don't know. Anyways, that's that part. So I'll get into the main flux of this all. So, those groups are having problems, going away. There's other groups in ag tech from all sides that are downsizing. There's people on all sides of ag that are downsizing. And then you have, clearly there's some, turnover on the USDA and other programs that involve ag, all sorts of stuff like that. What I'm going to talk about today is more of what is about to happen because of all those things. And I don't know if this is good or bad. I see it a few different ways. There's going to be a shit ton of new ag consultants that come out of the fray, and especially ag tech consultants, based off, they got let go or the company couldn't afford them anymore. And maybe they're just like, hey, we'll do a consultant role for like, a quarter of your salary or something to try to keep on helping, but, go explore other things. There is a crap ton of people in that is going to come out of that. I already am starting to see it. And it's just going to get really interesting. Now, there's good from that because some people maybe were, very knowledgeable and kind of stuck in these places that, they couldn't really help, but maybe they can help more broadly. I mean, I maybe kind of put myself in that hat from some of the consulting I do. I don't do a lot of it, and I'm very picky about it too. So, some people are going to be that way. Um, but some people are very good at their speciality within it. Maybe it's animal ag, maybe it's robotics, maybe it's indoor ag, all these things I'm talking about. Maybe it's software, maybe it's data, AI, whatever you want to call it. Maybe we just need more of that so it can spread. There can be more people spread in light doses everywhere in ag, instead of some of these larger ag groups, they maybe don't hire certain people because it costs too much. They need their advice. They just don't need all of it all the time. And I think there's kind of this new burgeoning kind of, you could call it, what's the word for it? It kind of, I don't know, whatever. I can't think of the word. It is a Friday when I'm doing this right now. So you're just going to get a new collective of, you know, specific specialty consultants that are maybe going to flow around the entire industry in their various ways. And that can be a really good thing. As I think other industries have that's happened to them. Ag is, elusive, but that's also the part of the problem we have. Why maybe ag tech has had problems, because more advice and spreading of that knowledge needs to spread around, and some groups didn't. They grabbed someone from the wrong area, and while they're smart, they spent too much money on them, and they only really needed them for a little bit of advice, and to help them in certain ways, connect some dots, connect some people, some sales things. You don't have to spend maybe 200 grand a year on that guy. It's like, well, I'll give him 50 grand a year if he just kind of stays in our realm, and he can go do some other stuff, as long as it's not with like our direct competitor. Um, there's a lot of opportunities there. So get ready to see a ton more of that, as I've said now for the third time. Now, while I think there's benefits to it, it's also going to get crowded really fast, and a lot of people are going to probably claim, I can do this, I can do that, I'm good at this, blah, blah, blah. Maybe some different consortiums will start coming together. There's already some that are. People I know, good people that are, knowledgeable and all that. I can see more popping up in more a speciality way, like I said earlier. Of course, what gets problematic with consortiums of consultants is, like, how do you split that between different people? Especially if it's a larger group, it gets complex really fast. And then does it just turn into like a mini McKinsey or Deloitte, where it's two main people started it, and then they got they get enough contracts, and they hire like 20 other consultants under them to kind of and piddle around with them, paying them a little bit, and then just the cycle goes around. I don't know. And consulting firms are ugh. Consulting firms, I feel, are not always the best way to handle certain things. They can do great things, don't get me wrong, but yeah, there's enough talk about the good, bad, and ugly of consulting firms. I think more smaller groups, individual basis, can do better. I think, as an individual trying to do it kind of sucks, actually. I don't really like doing it. Now, if I was with a few other people in some ways, and we can kind of put our heads together and go after some bigger things or special things, I think that can work. Yeah, maybe 2, 3 people. Like, you get past that, then things get a little tricky. If you can handle it, good for you. All the best to you. I have no problem with it. It's going to be a little more of a tricky problem. Now, for the bad parts about it is, clearly some of these people are going to have problems, maybe financially. They might talk about things that aren't, they maybe say they can do something, and what that is not really accurate, and that group wastes their money or something like that. There's going to be there's going to be some of that. I mean, there's going to be people pitching whatever they can to pay the bills. That happens, just like any other thing. And there'll be a brain drain in kind of the ag tech field, and just ag in general, in other areas. Where do they go? Do they find homes in other areas? Say you're, you know, generally successful ag tech company, but you need to get rid of some people just because, that's how financials work. Well, that person could go to your competitor and kill it because you maybe weren't supporting them in what they could do. Maybe it's actually your fault. If you're the owner or founders or the investors, maybe they're dead space though too. And then that person goes out and creates more dead space. Maybe they just shouldn't have been in this industry. Those people do exist. Trust me. Not saying it's a lot of people, but there are people that are, they just shouldn't be in agriculture for various reasons. Maybe they can do the same thing, just do it in another industry. Maybe it's marketing, maybe it's sales, maybe it's programming, whatever. So that can be good though too, because it can get rid of some of this extra weight and extra fluff. Maybe either way, there's good and bad. Just be prepared for a lot more people on LinkedIn pushing that. Open to work. That's clearly going to be a thing, and they'll start new companies, their own little consulting companies, and they'll put it on there so they don't look like they're not working. So because when they do find something, they don't want to look like that way. But I don't know if people actually care about that anymore. Personally, some do, maybe some big corporates maybe do, or HR groups do. I think most people don't really care. But with that said, there's going to be a lot more of that. And the tricky thing here, though, is okay, there's going to be more people. If you are a business, how do you utilize that correctly? Everyone wants to charge things differently. Everyone wants to pay things differently. I myself do kind of a retainer fee of sorts. That's how I've done it. It's like, oh, you want me 3 months? It's this much a month. Here's the roll up, kind of average this out and then pile down if we want to go continue. It's written into a contract. Some people do it by the hour. I'm not that guy. If you want my time, I don't do it by the hour because it's not how I work. Although maybe I could. I'm actually thinking about some thoughts on that, and I'll dive into that a little later. But some people want a longer consulting gig. Maybe it's a year, but they're doing 1 week a month or something. Some jobs you can do that, some you can't. Maybe it's a sprint help. It's like, oh, I need you for a week to overview this code that was written or this marketing plan or something. And the amounts are going to vary all over the place from say $100 an hour to $500 an hour to $1,000 a week to $10,000 a month or whatever the heck it's going to be. I would say this is if you are a company that is trying to downsize, maybe look at some of those options with those people that you're going to get rid of instead of, maybe you're paying them 100 grand a year. You're like, yeah, I just can't afford that. I really like your help when I need it. And maybe I can give you 25 grand a year and just, be around, give me a few days a month or, just concentrate that you understand our business, blah, 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 our customers, XYZ. That can be very beneficial. And that can also help that person kind of maybe get out of their own way. There's a lot of people, especially in I'll call it age group. I'm 40, 35 to 45. Maybe just call it the millennial groups or older millennials. A lot of them are going through almost their mini midlife crises of, oh, I'm stuck here. I need to do my own thing. Those types of things. That entrepreneurial spirit. There's a lot of that. You can help them. Maybe they're hour worker that you can afford full time, but you're thinking like, oh God, I could use a little extra because I need it here. Maybe bring it up. Be like, hey, I'm thinking this. Are you wanting to do something bigger to yourself? Maybe your own thing, your own whatever, start your own software that's different because you've learned kind of through here how it all works, or you have this experience, this knowledge. You see this gap in the industry, but you feel stuck. Like maybe I can help you get unstuck. You can still help me. Hey, we know this other group. Maybe you can help them. Maybe you can not only work for us, but you could work for this client directly in a consulting role, kind of fill in the things you need while you explore this new opportunity. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I think a lot of groups should think about that because as we've also learned, is some of these ag groups and ag tech groups, especially, have gotten too big. There's just too many people. Like hiring 50 to say 200 people in some of these is scary. I've known people that do it. I know people that do it, and it's mind numbing for them, the stress. And I think they're always looking for ways to, like, I need these amount of people, but I don't. Like, how do I do that? Maybe we can all just spread the wealth a little bit, spread it around. Maybe some people will get out that just don't want to be in it. They see kind of a downshift in ag and with policy and politics being weird within it. They're just like, I need a change. I need some help though. Still, I just don't need this much. And if there's a big pool of new consultants in ag that come in, heck, maybe that's the way. Maybe this is the start of something great. Maybe this is how it all can work, is if we share more of our collective knowledge through just bits and pieces of little consulting here and there, we can actually figure out all these nuances. Because so often groups that raise a lot of money, at least in this world I talk in, hire a bunch of people. Things didn't work, downsize, this, try to find more money to keep it up. When really, maybe most of the work was really only done by a few select people, but they still need the help of the others. They still needed that collective mindset of people to kind of make sure they, massage this corner here, uh, make sure this doesn't happen, get that right contact, write the right thing, do the right marketing thing, whatever it is. Maybe we need more of that. No one needs to do it full time, some of these things. Like for me, and I'll get back to what I was saying before, I've been trying to kind of rethink this a little bit. Like typically I've done a few month stints, like 3 months, maybe 6, something like that. Maybe that's not right for me. I have a lot of context of this industry, precision ag tech, farming directly, kind of, I can put a lot of different caps on. And I got my own little side businesses too. So I don't really want to like be totally in all the time. And, while going by hourly is tough just because of the mantra around it, I've actually thought is like, maybe I put out like on a, somehow a link. It's like, here's a Calendly link. If I have, book 8 hours of me and it's $1,000, just you got to write the check up front. I'll give you about a day, rough take day, or a day split out over time, and just whatever, find a time, let's do it. But I need your undivided attention. You need my undivided attention, because we'll go through so much stuff in a short amount of time, because I can contextualize so much of this stuff through my history and workings and people I know and all this that can kind of bring it down to something. And would that provide more than $1,000 of value? Maybe, probably. I've done it for free for others countless times. I'll just say that, through an hour or 2 hour calls. No, that doesn't work for everybody. So I'm not saying I'm going to do it or not. I'm just saying that's a concept I've been floating around, or something like that. Or it's like, hey, just pay me $5,000 a year, and I'll answer your emails, and I'll think about it. I'll put my brain to work. So that's the problem with hourly things is, I don't just decide when my brain is thinking about half of these things I'm trying to think about. It just comes up at different times, different things influence that. You're paying for my essence of being, to want to think about what you're doing and caring about what you're doing and trying to help you. And sometimes I can provide that value in an hour, something that might take others 10 hours. And there's going to be other people that come in the industry that are in this consulting kind of melee. They're going to have that same ability. It's like, oh, you just need to talk to this person, tell them this, tell them I sent you over. You'll be good. You'll probably get $5,000 out of them. Pay me $1,000. We'll be on our way. Or, hey, I've seen all you're doing. I've seen all this. Like, oh, you're doing this wrong. You're wasting $2,000 a month on doing this because of XYZ. Pay me this. I'll be on my way. Some of that can be done really quickly, but you have to be open to it too. And the people that are out there that can do these things need to showcase what they can do. Some proof to the pudding, but also, they got to be able to talk the talk, walk the walk. And that can be hard to assess and can be hard to showcase by the people that are doing it. Um, and I know a lot of this stuff is broad. I'm not necessarily getting into the ag part directly, but there's 1,000 ways to do it. There's freaking 10,000 ways to tackle a problem in ag. I can't go through every different scenario. If you want a scenario, I'll throw my imagery, cap, remote sensing, earth observation hat on, which is one of my more expertise for sure. 30 freaking years of it. There's things there like, hey, I got this awesome image product from this satellite and I've turned it to these analytics. What should I do? And I get this. People have came to me, talked about this. And it might be off the cuff. I say like, that looks awesome. Hey, that's cool. I like what it can do. That it does so show some value. And then I might ask, well, who are you trying to sell to? And they're like, well, we think we can create our own little software and sell it directly to farmers. And I tell them right away, it's like, that's a fucking terrible idea. It just is. They don't want to pay for it. And just there in that moment, because I've experienced it 1,000 different ways, and it's not saying some farmers won't buy it, it's just a very small percentage will do that directly. I've saved probably groups hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions of dollars by just saying, like, I've been through this. Don't do it. You might get the 0.1%, maybe the 1%. It's like, that doesn't cut the bills. Here's why. Cost this, cost this. Don't do it. Go after these types of people. Go after the major softwares. But they do it differently too. You got to have a different model there. Or go to the ag retailers. But yeah, they work it a little differently too because they work with these different softwares and groups. And agronomists handle. There's all these little different nuance things. And with imagery, with some of them, I know what to tell them in 5 minutes, and I could save them $100,000 in cents if they were actually going on that warpath of going after this group in the wrong sense. Now to articulate it more and to create a real business plan and all that stuff, of course, that takes more time. I'm not taking that away from it, but those are the types of scenarios. There's a lot of people out here that probably can be able to help and do that. You also have to pay them for that value. I've given away for free just to maybe showcase that I can do it. But then again, there's not 1,000 groups trying to ask that question. There's, maybe 10 over time. So to a point, it also becomes, I just don't want the wrong thing to happen. I'm going to tell them not to do that because I don't want them to get in the way of themselves and in the industry. So sometimes you just kind of do it. With all that said, that's a scenario. Maybe you have your own when it comes to programming or marketing or selling seeds, selling chemical, whatever. Making some sort of financial software, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I think as employers, you have to be open to looking for those people and have a budget for it and be realistic. Maybe give some of your own employees that opportunity to kind of spread their wings and fly. As for new consultants coming in, you have to really figure out what you're good at. And if you're not really well known, then you're gonna have to work a lot harder and spread yourself out there. Also, by not spending too much money on trying to promote yourself and losing. All of that is just hard to do. Not everyone should start their own new newsletter or new podcast around this and talk about it because there's just too many. I don't really listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't read a lot of newsletters myself. I don't have the time to do it all as much as I'd like to. There's just a balance to this all. I'm just talking through it to try to give some context into how to think about it. My little experiences, there's others. I'm going to try to deep dive into this a little more. There's actually some other people I've been talking to try to tackle some of this and be like, hey, maybe we could do it this way. Try it this way. Kind of quick in and out. Let's help you. Let's get out. Get you on your way instead of these long drawn out kind of consulting plays. But then maybe you come back later or something for a moment. Others are going to handle it differently. Anyways, there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot more people going to come into the space in ag doing consulting roles or half-time roles with some consulting, whatever. I'll do my own pitch. If you're curious about me doing it, by all means, just reach out to me. It's easy to get a hold of me. I'm always curious. I don't know. I have my own little business things I'm working on, which I'm more concentrated on, but I'm also open to helping. If I spend one day a month or a total of 7 days a month in different days and configurations, helping 10, 20 different groups, and someone wants to pay me a little bit for that, awesome. I will see what I can do. I will try. I also got other shit to do. And I got little kids and I got summer's coming, which all this other crap comes up. So know that. There's others like me too in that same boat. There's people that just don't have the bandwidth either. And there's groups that are confused on how to even go about it, to even know that they need to get rid of some people and offer them that. Maybe that's a consulting role in itself. Think of that. Hey, there's a group of 100 people and some consultants come in, just like Office Space, and they go through everybody and they kind of figure out, it's like, yeah, you really don't need 50 people, but you do need these 25 people once in a while because of these little things. Heck, there's a new consulting gig for someone out there, and do it internally into their own company that you want to get out of and say, like, yeah, I know everybody, you really only need this, and just be open about it and say, yeah, pay me this a year, I'll get out of your way. These people will do the same because I know them and they've been talking to me at the water cooler or whatever, the digital water cooler. You as an owner, founder, whoever's paying the bills, need to be open to some of these things if you want to survive. Because I know that feeling too. Having, the money dropping down, the stress, the anxiety, the pain, the tears, just all of these things. I know that feeling. I know what you're going through. Not a lot of people do. Not a lot of consultants maybe not know that. If you do know that, you're also rare. Because knowing and understanding that feeling of the other side of asking for something, for money from someone that owns a business, or how it feels from like the corporate end for a small business end, like, I'm lucky I have all these experiences and they've fucked me up plenty. So this is why I'm here. I'm sure it's fucked up other people too. In saying that, there is opportunity in that level as well. Just the psychological thing of it, figuring out what works, what doesn't. And I'm hopeful people will figure it out. I'm going to write about it, see what people think on this potential of what's about to happen, but how to work within it. Because I want to see all this stuff work. I don't want to see it fail. I don't like even talking about it anymore. I used to write about it more. I don't really like doing it because it's depressing. And it's like, I've lived that. I feel that when everything was like up and great, everything was great. Every article was the next new thing. This is going to change and disrupt all of ag, feed the world, shit, whatever. That's what got me angry, because I knew it was bullshit. And so many others did. But then you'd hear it. And now here we are at reality of the pain is real. The stress is real. It's actually hard to do this shit. Money doesn't solve problems. Understanding, experience, context, knowledge, that solves problems. And some grit and some balls, to be honest. Some version of balls. You got to have them to do some of this stuff. And the bigger, better, longer lasting, I suppose, if you want to put it in that context, which is weird. I know. So, with all that said, I got to run. I will be very curious on what people think about all this and what they talk about. Want to hear your thoughts and feelings. But other than that, thanks for listening. We'll check you later. Thanks, everyone.